Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Unicorn. I'm Jimmy Owens. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and ring a bell. Okay, our guest today is Lisa Toth. I love saying your last name.
Toth, T. I always tell people phonics. T, long O, T-H. And people don't even understand phonics anymore, Jimmy. They don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I think some of them don't know how to write.
Oh, people are not learning how to do cursive in school now, you know.
Yeah. My kids are actually.
Oh, they are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they are. It's kind of fun. They're trying to show me how to write in cursive, which I know how, but haven't done it in a long time. And they're really, really proud of themselves. You know, like, I know how to write in cursive, and it's fun to watch how excited they were about it.
Well, good, because I don't want it to be a lost art. I mean, family photos are, names of people and what we were doing on the back of them in cursive.
Yeah.
Old lady cursive that you can't really understand even when you can read it. So some kids I've met in my family have said it looks like Arabic to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
True.
Anyway,
off
the topic, but
no, all good. All right. So Lisa Toth, describe this episode in one word before we get started. What do you got?
Well, informational.
Yeah. Mine was insightful.
Okay.
That was my word. So a couple questions for you. Do you have a radio show?
I do.
Stay tuned. Do you have a podcast?
The radio show then becomes a podcast.
Okay. Nice. All right. Do you help people with disabilities or different abilities?
Both.
Okay.
Just depends, but I like to call them, we like to look at people's abilities rather than their disabilities. So.
Yeah, no, I like it. That's why there's the question, because I think on your website, it may have said different abilities potentially. I read it somewhere and I was like, okay, yeah. So I picked up on that pretty quick.
And I had gotten a lot of feedback on that, calling it different abilities. And I went directly to Oklahoma People First membership at a big meeting. And I asked them, there are people who have developmental and other disabilities. And I said, you guys, is it okay if I say this? And they said, sure, we love it.
Yeah. 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 I like it too. All right. So Lisa, why are you a unicorn? What's going on?
Well, first of all, you probably don't know this, Jimmy, but I have a house that I've owned it for about 3 years now, but I call it the Unicorn Resort. So when you mentioned Behind the Unicorn podcast, I thought, well, that's just really interesting. And the thing is, I tried to build a house or find one that would just meet my needs and my wife's needs. Finally, though, we found this, and it is everything we could have dreamed of. So we call it the Unicorn because it's a one of a kind. And I'm one of a kind. I guess
Sure.
we almost all are. And I use the abilities that make me unique to help people with other different abilities get jobs and be accepted into society. So in a way, I am, an individual, rare species, but I have a lot of other unicorns with me running the fields.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the answer. All right, now's just a little time to take a break for our episode sponsor. Okay, Lisa. So the name of your company is Rise Staffing.
Yes.
Right.
All right. What do you do?
Okay. First, I'll tell you that I have been in the field working with people with developmental and other disabilities since the early 80s. And I happened upon it in college as a part-time job. Eventually, I came to own my own company, which was called Phoenix Residential Services. And the reason why was I feel like people with developmental disabilities have the chance to rebuild themselves whenever they want to, because people get labeled with something and then that's all they seem to be stuck with their whole life. Mm-hmm. And I was labeled with things when I was a kid, a disruptor, a different, a unicorn running my own way. And I don't get labeled with that because I was able to change it, but these people can't. So I'm there to help them do that. So we decided to stop doing a lot of the residential services, which would be like a group home where so many people would live. And then we had so many staff people. For one 24-hour-a-day house, you have to have 3.4 people to work around the clock. And then when they have additional needs and different staff, honestly, it becomes like a Peyton Place, if you know what I mean, a soap opera of human resources problems rather than really helping the person with disabilities. So I decided to take the company in a different way with a lot of help from people like the SCORE mentors and 36 Degrees North, an entrepreneurial incubator here in Tulsa, helped me kind of figure out how to shift my company. And we named it Rise Staffing, rising from the ashes of the Phoenix staffing agency now. And I call it a boutique staffing agency. We work with people who have different abilities and maybe people who have become displaced, like a person who was in the Army and they had a back injury and they used to be a diesel mechanic, but now they want to do maybe light part delivery or something. So we help them, ease back in through different training and personalized job matching skills. So not like a staffing agency that you would see a company would have to pay me to place somebody with them. My services are free to employers because I hold a contract with the state of Oklahoma, 2 different divisions, the Developmental Disability Services and the Division of Rehabilitation Services. So that gives us a wide range of people that we can help.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Okay. Yeah, that's super helpful too. I mean, I'm glad I asked the question and, we're educating our viewers. So
sometimes I give a lot of information, so feel free to stop me, cut me off.
This is a show about information. Yeah. So what's the name of the radio show and what's the name of your podcast?
Okay. Well, the radio show and podcast have the same name. It's The Hidden Workforce, a show about the positive impact people with different abilities bring to the workforce.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's on FM 105.7 here in Tulsa. It's groovy 105.7 FM. And so between the hits of the 60s and 70s, you'll hear our talk shows on the weekends. My show comes on Saturday at 9 a.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m.
Okay. How is it creating all that content?
I do have a full-time job running this company and getting people jobs. So basically, I do 21 minutes a week of content. Now, Jimmy, I'm watching what you're doing here, and you've got you and 2 other helpers doing this podcast. I myself do everything regarding the radio show. So I find my guests, I record it, I edit it, then I put it into a file so that the radio station owner can take it and put it into the distribution time.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a lot of work and I'd like to do more. In fact, if you want to hear this, I love so much doing the radio show. It's so much fun. People with different abilities that I work with love to be my guests on the show. And why not make this a vocational opportunity, Jimmy? Why not take this as a chance to help people? Because I really researched it and there's so many different careers that people can delve into if they get and come in and we do a vocational training on how to run a radio show, all the different aspects of broadcasting and journalism kind of things, but geared towards people with different abilities so they can understand it and progress, but really learn and then go out and get jobs. So that's my next thing that I'm hatching in my head.
Yeah, I mean, great show. I remember, I don't want to get too far ahead of us, but I don't even remember if I wrote this question down, but I think the latest show that I heard was you were talking about I don't know why I'm laughing. I think it's just because of the world, So it was a ship with people with disabilities on it or different abilities, right?
Yes.
Right? You wanna fill in the blank because you'll tell it better than I will. I'll butcher it. I'll just stutter.
The cruise ship situation.
Yeah, the cruise ship. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like kind of really surprised because most of my family are kind of like, into what I do and understandable, but
Yeah.
a family member had a friend who complained to her that they went on a cruise. Apparently, a group must have booked it. I don't know if it was a school. I really have no clue, but they were too many people using wheelchairs, too many people that were blind, and also people that were deaf and couldn't imagine why they were there and what they were going to see and do. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's why we do the Hidden Workforce radio show. That's why I'm a unicorn. That's why we have this agency and I employ people. I'm talking to you now.
Yeah.
Because we need to just be comfortable with the people that are different than us.
Sure. Just because I'm blind doesn't mean I don't need to get out, right?
I mean, you can experience a mind ruin. I went down, I have another show in the podcast record, animals that are listed on our website, www.risestaffing.net. You can get in there and find all of them. Is the school, Oklahoma School for the Blind. I went down there and learned about their White Cane Quest. It's a competition where the younger blind students are learning how to navigate the streets and the sounds and all of this. It was quite fascinating. And I mean, I just think, dream it, live it.
Yeah. It's amazing what we can do if we were just put in a situation, right?
I think our world would be a lot better if we just decided to meet people where they are and not where we want them to be.
Yeah.
So I hope we're just
don't expect a fish to run a marathon.
Right.
But I do believe this: ants can move rubber tree plants.
Oh, say that again. Ants.
Yeah.
Can move rubber tree plants. You know that? No. Because they've got high hopes. They've got high hopes. High in the sky hopes. So, whoops, there goes another rubber tree plant. So ants are so small, but they're pulling them. It was a little commercial song a long time ago.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. We're going to have to look it up. I'm going to look it up when I get off of here.
Don't put my singing in there.
All right. So, what kind of business hack do you have for our audience, and what kind of life hack do you have for us?
Business-wise, I started my own business and I started several of them. And I just want to tell you, if you have it, dream it, live it, do it, build it, and they will come. Believe in yourself.
Okay.
And never say no if people are asking you to do something, especially if it's something like getting on this podcast or anything that's going to get you networking.
Yeah.
Just say yes.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. This is one of my favorite ways to network. This table, get to learn, more about you. I just learned so much, and then it's a great way to connect with everyone's, network after the fact. So,
and I agree with you, Jimmy. And I think we were talking a little bit before we got going. How did this radio show help my business? And it's exactly what you're saying. It's because we're networking. It's because we're talking. We're, exploring things and with people that I just didn't know, but I was interested in. And amazingly, being part of something, radio program, people want to answer my calls and things like that. So it helps. And giving a voice to my customers. And then I just meet so many new people, and more people are getting new ideas too. Like I have a success story.
Let's hear it.
Okay. One of my biggest passions is adult changing spaces. There's a law in Oklahoma that's getting tousled around at the Capitol called Max's Law. And it's really because people who are over 55 pounds who are physically disabled cannot use those koala changing stations that you see all the time. Now, if you're going to go somewhere, they're going to, like a brand new building, they maybe have a wonderful family restroom that women can nurse in and all this stuff, but they will tell you to bring your own yoga mat and direct you to the floor to change your child with a physical disability, which is pretty disgusting. You even have hooks in restrooms to hang women's purses and things because we don't want it on the floor. And so to imagine a human being having to lay on the floor or have to be changed in the parking lot, exposed to people seeing them, the weather and it's just horrible. So adult changing spaces is a big thing. And in our Facebook groups, I saw a woman who went to the Discovery Lab, brand new here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They didn't have one, but they did direct her to the maternal family room and the yoga mat situation. And we were able to, through our connections and the radio show, get with the city of Tulsa, city councilors, gathering place people, Discovery Lab people, and they've got one going in, and more are coming into Tulsa now.
Yeah.
And that's just so important for our visitors and people, because they're included. Because one of our biggest obstacles, Jimmy, and everybody needs to know this, for people with disabilities is mobility, access, and changing spaces, private changing spaces.
Okay.
So if they have that, they can go on with their day. People with cerebral palsy, do you know, they plan their eating and drinking so that they can, not have to use the restroom at places where it's inconvenient.
Okay.
I don't know if the general public knows those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No clue. So I'm gonna go back to your radio show. How has you? I mean, you already said that your radio show helped you network, meet all these new people. But is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, it's given, people are interested in my business because I sponsor it, so that helps me get more clients that then I can help get jobs. And then too, we can help people even as a resource, even just not something that we're making money out of, but a conduit to share information and network people that we're learning about, which I think there's enough business to go around. So providers of, there's so many different little pockets of people doing cool things like where, not your average Joe, different coffee shops, like so many different organizations that are all doing it on their own. But if we all get together and do it together, what a better difference we can make. So I'm trying to help people understand that if you have a secret, sure, we don't want to steal your secret sauce, but if we all work together,
you build a community.
Makes better sense to me. So
a community that serves. Yeah. Why did you pick radio for your message?
There's a guy. Okay. I was a part of this Tulsa Chamber of Commerce for a long time, and I joined a thing called the CEO Roundtable, where people who owned companies would go, I think it was once a month, we would sit down and go have lunch and just talk about different issues, hurdles or new things we learned, or even problems like some people were in businesses with their spouse. So we talked about how that was. And I became friends with several of those people. And one of them is a real estate agent named Daryl Baskin with eXp Realty. And I love him. He inspired me because as a young man, he wanted to do real estate. Dude, you're a young boy. Nobody's going to want to buy or take advice from you about real estate. You've got to get experience. How do I get experience unless somebody gives me a chance? He said. And one woman did give him a chance, and he got started, and he decided to start a television show on Sunday mornings where he would put the houses that he had for sale on, which was pretty ingenious. And from there it grew, and he started a radio program on KRMG in Tulsa. No, on not KRMG. The other one, sorry. Well, anyway, he started a local radio show called the Market Expert Hour. And then he interviewed me and I said, Daryl, how do you do this? And he told me a new station's just popped up and they're selling airtime. I said, people have told me I've got good stories. Maybe I should do something like this. And I did. And I can't stop.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're passionate about it.
Sorry, I rambled.
No, you're passionate about it. No, that's great. Yeah. I was just curious why you went with radio. So
that's why I did, because it was available and my friend was doing it.
And you've seen it work, right?
He offered me a really good deal on, my spot, and I could come to his studio and record. He would help me with, that and that. So
yeah. So you started with radio. When did you start the podcast part of it? Or did you just always just do both?
Yeah, because that's what we were doing. And originally we would go run it on the radio, 9 a.m. Saturday, 3 p.m. Sunday. And then at like 5 or 6 on Sunday, it will go into the podcast. We were running it through SoundCloud, but then we started thinking SoundCloud's really more for artists and, musicians. I really wanted to learn about the radio broadcasting and how to mix and edit and do things I went to school at Tulsa Technology, and I was actually taking a class for making an album. So I really just had to come home, and we looked into things. A client of mine named Sean Lewis, well, he's really my friend, not my client, sorry, scratch that. My friend Sean Lewis, who was a guest on the Hidden Workforce, has his own podcast, Rolling with Sean Lewis, and he told me about an app called Anchor, and ANCHOR, which was like kind of married to Spotify. So I started to use that. And
Okay.
so basically it's pretty easy. Like you just sign up as an artist, and then you upload your shows to it. They give you what they call an RSS feed, and then it gets distributed to all the major podcasting things. So people can listen to you anywhere.
Yeah. So how long did you do the radio show before you did the podcast, or did you just start doing both at the
Immediately?
same time?
It started out through the SoundCloud, and then we switched it over. I think it went through SoundCloud. It's not doing, I don't think we're sending it through SoundCloud anymore. It's just going through the Spotify. Anchor changed to Spotify for podcasters.
Yeah.
So I run it through that now. And then as soon as it gets on the air, we don't play it before, like we don't give people sneak peeks. We wait till they hear it on the radio. And then after it airs for the second, for the last time on Sunday afternoon, we'll put it into the cloud.
It kind of reminds me of the Sunday morning over easy show. You know what I'm talking about? No? Anyways, I think it's on OETA like 7:30 or 8 in the morning. Yeah, anyways. Okay, so is it easy doing what you're doing? Is it easy to do is it easy to do your own show?
Is it?
Well, it's getting a little easier now. I mean, I was pulling my hair out. It was really hard, and I could have given up. First of all, I was really scared. So I didn't know what to do to begin with. And I had heard about an app called Fiverr.
Yeah.
Do you know that app? It's Fiverr, I think.
Yeah.
And so you can hire people who will do things for you. Like I hired a girl named Shawnee. She's also on my podcast, and she's from Sri Lanka. And she wrote me, I said, Shawnee, I'm going to have this person on. They own, like I had to find friends, like my old landlord, my in-laws, anybody who would get on the radio show. And then I would tell her about them. She did a little research on the internet, and then she would write me questions for the radio show to take up, 7.5 minutes. And then people felt good about coming in with questions. And then I felt more organized, but eventually it didn't, eventually it's more conversation rather than, following a script. And then editing is hard. Getting the sound levels was so difficult, and the microphones, it was just a real learning experience. But now that I have it down pretty good, I like it. But I'd like to do more. But
there's a learning curve, right?
It's a learning curve, and I don't have enough time, and I'm not, that technically savvy. So,
well, let me ask you this. So, what kind of guests do you have on your show?
Well, being that the show is a show about the positive impact people with different abilities bring to the workforce, we try to keep it geared towards that. And most every guest we have has a connection one way or another. Recently, we even had Fox 23 news reporter Julia Gorman on, and because she did a radio show about us and one of my customers out in Broken Arrow, and she was fantastic. She had volunteered for Best Buddies during high school and stays connected to somebody that she went to high school with through that program. So, that's a cool connection. And she does focus her stories on our clients a lot. Okay. So then I take my customers like to come on. I have remote reporters like Kelsey O'Halloran from Tulsa here. She did she took us live to Kilkenny's, where she did a dancing performance on St. Patrick's Day. And then she also recorded over at the Gathering Place, where she volunteers, and got some information about that. Oh, I asked people who are professionals in the field this weekend. We're running a show on, get this, tactile, a floor, a sensory walking space that is going to help students in the classroom take off their shoes, go out and walk on different textures that will calm them down. And the lady who invented that for this Broken Arrow school, Dr. Patty Hipsher, will be on my show this weekend.
Wow, that's unique.
I also had gone to the mausoleum here in Tulsa, Rose Hill Cemetery. Why? Because, well, we are the hidden workforce, and somebody who's working in a crypt is kind of hidden. But the main thing about her was she heard about the Hollywood Forever Cemetery out in California that had gone through some bankruptcy and trouble, and then eventually turned into a event space, and they show movies out there on the lawn. And so she like, I want to do that. I want to do that in Tulsa. So she's taking our Abbey Mausoleum at the Rose Hill Cemetery and making it into an event space. Wow. And so I liked the determination of her. It took her 3 years to talk the owner into letting her do it. And she customized the job for herself. Like,
yeah, that's cool. Nice. Okay, Lisa. So we need some advice, some do's and don'ts for some of our audience that maybe don't interact with, people with different disabilities or different abilities. What's some do's and don'ts that you can give us? Okay.
The main thing is to just stop, take a breath, and calm down when you're going to meet somebody. They're a person, not scary. You do not have to yell at a person sitting in a wheelchair or
baby talk them, right? Oh, hi, right? I always pick up on that. I think some people do that quite a bit, right?
Baby talk.
I was like, don't baby talk somebody.
Yeah. Just tell And you may not know, you're going to come onto a situation if you don't have a guide, like, in the employment situations, people often have me or another job coach that's going to come in even ahead of time and do a little bit of preliminary training. A person with autism that I'm right now working with goes into job interviews. I have to tell the employer, hey, this person is not being rude. They will pick up their phone during this interview. They're not ignoring you, and they're not just gallivanting on their phone. They're looking up what you're saying because they don't understand it. They'll get a frame of reference, and then they can continue their conversation.
Okay.
So that's the kind of thing. But if they have patience and they have the aptitude to just like take a beat and just understand that this person's coming from a different place. Like if a person comes from another country or another religion or culture, we often can stop and think, okay, they want us to take our shoes off before we go in their house, or we need to, do this or that. But it's the same thing with people with different abilities. Everybody's different too. So there's not one rule. So That's why the best advice I can give people is to just look at people and figure out where they're coming from and do your best to connect with them. When you can't understand a person's voice, the only way you usually can is just to hang out with them and get used to it, because amazingly, it kind of just happens.
Yeah. And then you just say, hey, you know what? Can you repeat that if you didn't understand them, right?
Mm-hmm. And
all you can do. Yeah.
Great. Because we've had Claude, a guy named Claude, who is great with cerebral palsy on the show. And I have to ask him, what did you say? Or I will repeat what he said. He doesn't mind. I said, do you mind that we ask you? And he said, no, he's used to it. Mm-hmm. So people with different abilities are used to a lot, because they're often behind the scenes and they're invisible. But if you just give them a chance and give them a look, you'll see a whole bunch you wouldn't imagine.
Well, and then some of them are used to being treated normal, and then some of them aren't, right?
So, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So surprise them, treat them like they're normal. Treat them whatever you think normal is.
You want to hear one of my favorite things, one of my favorite sayings?
Yes.
Okay. When I was really getting into Star Trek, really in the early 90s, this and that. Well, it was so many different looking beings in a room working for something together. I kept thinking, oh man, when that day comes, my customers are going to be in like Flynn, because they're not going to be the only differently abled or looking persons in the room. Yeah. So that would be a start.
Yeah. Yeah. That's hilarious. That's a good way to look at it. What's the hardest thing you think that there is about running a business? If someone's wanting to start a business, give them a piece of advice.
Well, it's a lot of work. You literally, if you're an entrepreneur and you're a person like me with ADD and this and that, and, I have my own probably spectrum issues, but I have to calm down. You have to really focus. You have to learn. You have to do your homework. You have to do your research. Be ready and know what you want to do. Your product. Don't think you're just going to start something because it sounds good. You're going to have to do the work and you have to invest in it. And if that means money and time and blood and sweat and tears. And there's going to be times when you think you're going to never make it. You don't know if you can make the payroll. That is a killer time when you're sweating it and begging the bank for a line of credit, or, you just have to know what you're doing. Taxes, set it up right. Follow the rules and regulations, stay on top of things, do it.
Okay. What about someone wanting to start a radio show because they heard this, or start a podcast because they heard this? What would you tell them?
Go for it, because right now that kind of thing is a lot easier, and so many more jobs and starting things. Like, my business is a business. Like, I take care of people. I had to have a lot of contracts and lots of insurance and money, and all kinds of stuff. But right now, people today have the opportunity to start their own things in the gig economy. So, that's an avenue which I love. The TaskRabbits, the Thumbtacks, all the places you can go, the personal shoppers. Those are places, if you want to start a business and you don't really have experience, get started there and see what your niche is and how you like working for yourself and peddling for your own money.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have, your contact information, your website, and all that stuff in the description of the video for you guys. What other actions would you like people to take that are watching?
I want people to get with their lawmakers and make sure that they include people with disabilities, all sorts of people with disabilities, everywhere that we go. Everywhere we go, those people need to go and be accepted. And, if we can speak Spanish and have menus in different languages, we can also accommodate people with different abilities in a very positive way. And we're all in this together. It takes a village.
Yeah. All right. Great. So for our viewers, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, of course. Let us know what you thought of the show today. Let us know what you've been doing in the comments as well. If you're starting a podcast or you got a radio show or a website, put a link in the comments.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's so easy today to just get on a podcast server and just start your own show, whatever you want to do. And if you do see this and you like it, let Jimmy know that you saw us on his Behind the Unicorn podcast.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks again to our sponsor. And thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate it. Good job. Yep, you bet.